Alright everybody, welcome back into Sports and Money with Ben Parker. I hope you're having a tremendous day wherever you're watching this from. I hope life is going well for you. Thank you for being a part of Sports and Money with us here. We're covering Le'Veon Bell, and apparently the year is 1968, where we as sports fans still are under the mirage that players play simply because they love the game, and teams and owners will always take care of their players and do right by their players. It wasn't true in 1968, and it's not true now, and that brings us to Le'Veon Bell, who is getting just wrath upon wrath from teammates and fans and people around the league alike, and even, surprisingly, from some media members who tend to be more sympathetic toward player holdouts and things of that nature. Le'Veon Bell is just getting a whole lot of wrath and emotion about his holdout and his decisions to not play for the Steelers under the one-year deal that they currently have the right to offer him. His only leverage is to hold out and not play until he gets the deal that he wants. Now, for all I know, Le'Veon Bell at this very moment could be sitting down and inking a brand new long-term contract with the Steelers, but as of the making of this video, that is not the case, and we're going to cover why Le'Veon Bell is actually doing the right thing. If I were Le'Veon Bell, or if I were his agent, this is what I would be telling him to do, and these are the reasons that I would be telling him to do it. Before we even get into the money, the simple fact is this: Le'Veon Bell does not owe anything to the Steelers organization. They didn't do him a favor by drafting him. They drafted him because they thought he could be an asset to their team. He's turned out to be wildly more than they thought he could be when they did draft him out of Michigan State. He has been an all-world running back. He catches the ball, he blocks, he runs. He does everything for the Steelers, and we're going to get into more of what he does in just a minute. So he doesn't owe the Steelers organization anything. He plays for them because he's talented enough to do so. He doesn't owe the fans anything other than a very simple thank you for supporting us. He doesn't owe his teammates anything. Now that's going to rub a lot of people the wrong way, especially those of you who have played football and you know the team mentality and the warrior concept that you have to have as you enter into what's a very physical field of play against other guys who are doing the same thing. But the simple fact is, Le'Veon Bell doesn't owe anything to anybody other than himself or anybody he chooses to give some honor or some time to. If I were his agent, I would be telling him the same thing: stay off the field until you get the deal that you want. Rumors are that he's already been offered some pretty big money that didn't come with the guarantees that he wanted. I don't pay much attention to those rumors. Things can come from both sides of the camps. It's a PR battle at times. I don't pay much attention to that. The simple fact is, Le'Veon Bell hasn't got the contract that he wants yet, and until he gets the contract that he wants, he has every right, and I would support it, for him to stay off the field until he gets that. Let's do some number crunching and talk about, again, Le'Veon Bell. I've already done 2 videos on this over the past summer, doing a third one simply because we're into the NFL season and he is just getting hit from all sides, like I said, from teammates, fans, and even some media circles as well. Let's start off with this number right here, 406. That's not how many plays he was on the field last year. That's how many times he touched the ball last year. Between over 300 carries and I think it's something like 80, 85 catches out of the backfield. That's wide receiver numbers, by the way. He had over 400 touches last year. In previous seasons, when he wasn't injured, he has well averaged 350 touches per season as well. The simple fact is the Steelers lean on him very heavily. He's a huge, enormous part of the offense. He is the heart of the offense. Even though Roethlisberger and Antonio Brown are fantastic at what they do, Le'Veon Bell really sets the table. Le'Veon Bell is the foundation for all of that. And these 400 catches, backed up by previous seasons of 350 touches a year, is just wearing him out. Running backs typically have a very short shelf life in the NFL anyway. They already don't get a lot of money simply because they are largely replaceable. You can get a lot of other guys through some of the same things for vastly cheaper money, and simply because the NFL offenses aren't largely geared toward running games anymore. All the rules are bent toward passing, so running backs typically don't get a lot of money anyway. They typically don't get a whole lot of time in the offense the way Le'Veon Bell is getting it. He is getting massive touches, and they have a very short shelf life, and he is just getting wore out. The longer he plays like this, another season like this, and it very well could be wore out to the point where teams just don't want to give him the money. So The important statistic number one is he's getting a ton of touches every single season, and that is a lot of wear and tear at a position that has a very short shelf life in the NFL, at a position that typically just doesn't make as much money as any other position on the field, quite frankly. Second number, $100 million. I don't know that anybody on the open market would give Le'Veon Bell $100 million. That roughly works out to $17 million a year for 6 years, and that would probably come with guarantees of about $60 million. I don't know that anybody's going to give him that, but they could. And nobody will know until Le'Veon Bell gets on the open market and tries it. It's very certain, however, even if he can't get $100 million, he could very easily get 80, 85, $90 million on the open market because of all the things that he can do and how well he can do them. He's not just a jackknife of all trades. He is Hall of Fame caliber. Not saying he's going to make the Hall of Fame, but he is that kind of talented. He is a tremendous, tremendous talent. He does everything, and he does everything well, exceptionally well, like very few other people in the world have ever done it. He could very easily get $85, $90 million. The upper reaches of what he could get are $100 million. If he were to get a 6-year, $17 million contract, that would be in the ballpark, the neighborhood of $100 million. Next number, 0. 0 is the number that he could possibly get under a worst case scenario, and that is this. He plays for the Steelers this year under their 1-year franchise contract that they have offered him. A lot of money for 1 season, but it's 1 season only. After that season is done, he is guaranteed nothing. If he were to step on the field for the Steelers this year, and granted, this is a worst case scenario, but if you're Le'Veon Bell and if you're his agent, this is what you have to look at. If you step on the field this year and you're Le'Veon Bell and you suffer a career-ending injury, you say, Ben, that hardly ever happens. It happens all the time. Not usually to players as popular or as famous as Le'Veon Bell, but career-ending injuries do happen, especially in the NFL, such a violent sport. It does happen. The worst-case scenario is Le'Veon Bell gets injured and never plays again. 0 is the amount of money that he would make after such an injury. No one from Steelers ownership would be showing up with that $80 to $100 million that he prospectively could make under a contract. The players who have criticized Le'Veon Bell aren't going to pass the helmet around in the locker room and come up with 80 or 90 or $100 million for Le'Veon Bell, the poor guy who showed up for the Steelers and had a career-ending injury. The fans aren't all going to get together and pitch in $10 and $20 bills for Le'Veon Bell and come up with 80 or 90 or $100 million for him to make over the next few seasons since he suffered a career-ending injury. That is a worst-case scenario, but it is possible. And if you're Le'Veon Bell, it's just not something you want to risk until that guaranteed money gets up. Now, let's look at another scenario before I move on to the next number. Even off the 0. Let's say, and this is much more common, we've seen it happen with quite a number of players. We've seen it happen with quite a number of quarterbacks and running backs. He tears up a knee, maybe an ACL or an MCL. It's 18 months before he can even come back and play. When he does come back and play for half a season, he's rusty. It takes him a full half season to get back up to speed. That's 2 years. Guess how much money he's going to make after an ACL or MCL tear and half a season of rust? It won't be anywhere close to this. It'll probably be in the $15 to $20 million neighborhood, and that is a best case scenario after an ACL or an MCL tear. So Ben, again, that doesn't happen all that often. It happens quite a bit. And players have come back from that, but if you're his agent or if you are Bell, it's something you just don't want to risk, especially considering all of these carries that he has had, these touches, not plays, touches that he has had over the past few seasons. His whole career with the Steelers has had a tremendous volume of touches, makes him more injury prone. The more miles you put on the body, the more injury prone you are. And that is what he is looking at as well. That's case number 2. Now, let's look at one that's even more probable. Let's say he comes back for the Steelers this year. He adds on another 400 carries, 400 touches this year for the Steelers. He doesn't get injured. He plays the whole year, but now he's got 6 years. And this is a very realistic scenario. He has 6 years with the Steelers. as a running back, a position that typically doesn't pay very much money anyway compared to the other positions on the field. As a running back, he has 6 years of tons and tons, a very high volume of touches every single season. Not 400 necessarily, but 350 to 400. When he gets on the open market, 6 years of that, NFL teams are going to ask, and guaranteed you, the Steelers have already talked about this themselves. How much is a running back worth, even of Le'Veon Bell's caliber? How much is a running back worth who has this many carries on him after 6 seasons, knowing that running backs typically have a short shelf life anyway? Are we going to sign him to a huge contract only to have him get injured the very next season, or only to find out that he's lost half a step and he's not the Le'Veon Bell that we saw the first 6 seasons? That is what is so important for Le'Veon Bell. Even if he comes back, say he holds out for half the season, he holds out till week 10, even if he holds out for that amount of time and plays a very shortened season, that would even help him to refresh and get his legs back under him as well, not to have all that tread and all that mileage where the Steelers are just wearing him out, which, by the way, if I was Pittsburgh, I'd be doing the same thing. You get the ball in the hands of the guys who are the most talented, and that's Brown, and that's Roethlisberger, and that is Le'Veon Bell. One more number, and we're going to shut it down. The number 1. Unless you are one of the highly talented quarterbacks in the NFL, Peyton Manning when he was playing, Tom Brady, Drew Brees, one of those guys. Unless you are one of those highly talented quarterbacks who plays for a long time and makes a lot of money, you have one major contract that you will sign as an NFL player. You have one chance to make a ton of money, a boatload of money, more money than you will ever again see in your lifetime. You have one chance to sign that major contract. When rookies come into the NFL, a lot of you already know this, it's why you watch this channel in the first place, but when rookies come into the NFL, they are automatically, if they're drafted, locked into a 4-year contract. If you're drafted in the first round, you're automatically locked into a 5-year contract if the team wants to pick up a 5th-year option. If you are good enough for the team to want to hold on to you and pay you big money, they can franchise you for the next couple of seasons. You almost never see a 3rd-year franchise. I'd have to even check and see if that's something teams can do or not. But it has happened before that teams can lock you down for the first 7 seasons of your career, which, by the way, are the 7 healthiest, best seasons of your career for anybody other than a quarterback. 7 years you could play for one team before you ever sign a big money guaranteed contract. So if you come in when you're 20, 21, 22, and you play for the team, let's call it 6 seasons, before you get to even sign a big money contract, you are already 28 years old when you sign that first real contract for real money. By the time you play that second contract out at 5 or 6 years, that puts you at the age of 30 or 34. Nobody, other than quarterbacks, nobody signs that 3rd contract for big money. It's very small money, it's medium market, middle market, veteran kind of money. It's way scaled down from that 2nd contract that you will sign. This 2nd contract, that one contract that Le'Veon Bell has a chance to sign right now, this is it for him. After 5 or 6 seasons, however long that contract lasts that he signs for, and however much guaranteed money he can get out of it, because you never know if you're actually going to get to play the whole contract or not. Sometimes teams let you go after 3 or 4 seasons, even if you sign a 6 or 7 year deal. After that time, you are now sitting at the ripe old age of 33, 34 in the NFL. And that 3rd contract, the amount of money just falls way, way down, probably to a third to a quarter of what you could originally get off of that contract, that 2nd contract that you sign after your rookie deal is over. Le'Veon Bell knows this. His agent knows this. Everybody in the NFL knows this. If you're lucky enough to actually have a long career in the NFL, even if you sign several contracts, you really, other than quarterbacks get the chance to sign multiple high money deals. Other than quarterbacks, you have one chance to sign one major deal and make the kind of money that you will never again see in your lifetime. And for Le'Veon Bell, that's really what this is all about. It's not about providing for your family necessarily. You can pay the bills, you can buy the car, you can buy the house, you can pay for the groceries. What it's about is having money for life after football, for whatever he wants to do with it. Maybe he just wants to have an elevated quality of life. Maybe he wants to provide for his kids. Maybe he wants to provide for grandkids. I don't know. It's up to him. Maybe he wants to go out and spend every dollar of it. It's up to him. But for Le'Veon Bell, this is it. One chance to sign a big money contract, to get the guaranteed money with it, so that if you do get injured or you do get old, teams don't just cut you and let you go for $20 million or whatever that price tag might be at the time. This is Le'Veon Bell's chance. And the pressure that is mounting on him makes it harder and harder. It's more and more difficult to continue to hold out. The more teammates that speak out against you, you start to feel like the whole organization is against you. The more fans that come out against you, you start to feel like all the fans are against you. The more guys who write about it in the papers or the internet blogs or whatever and write against you, start to feel like everyone is against you. So there's a lot of pressure on a guy like Le'Veon Bell to continue to hold out for any length of time, whether it's 1 game or 2 or 8, however long it continues to be. There's a lot of pressure there. So he has to decide how important this money is to him. But to this point, this is what he's decided, and this is what, if I were his agent, I would be advising him to do as well. All right, thank you so much for listening. I will see you next time on Sports and Money. Have a great day. Goodbye.